We've all had that one moment in life we wish we could completely rewrite. Maybe it's a childhood trauma you wish you could erase, or maybe it's just a crush who didn't love you back, and you'd give anything to change their mind. But what happens when the universe actually hands you the cheat codes to reality? Cinema and horror love to play in this sandbox, but two characters stand out as a fascinating mirror image to each other. Evan Treborn from the 2004 sci-fi thriller The Butterfly Effect, and Bear from Curry Barker's recent viral horror masterpiece, Obsession. Both of these men are handed supernatural tools to bend reality to their will. But while their methods look similar, their motivations couldn't be further apart. Today we are breaking down how Evan's obsession is driven by a tragic, altruistic desire to save the people he loves, leading to ultimate self-sacrifice, while Bear's obsession is rooted in pure, fragile ego, proving that forcing someone to love you is the ultimate act of horror. Let's start with Bear. On the surface, Bear is framed as the classic, sympathetic, friend-zoned guy. He's hopelessly in love with Nikki, but he lacks the confidence to just be honest with her. So when he comes into possession of a supernatural item that grants wishes, he doesn't wish for wealth or success. He makes a highly specific, deeply telling request. I want Nikki to love me more than anyone in the world. Pay attention to the wording there. He doesn't wish for Nikki to be happy or for a genuine connection to form naturally. He wishes for possession. He wants her autonomy stripped away so that her entire universe revolves around him. And at first, it looks like a dream come true. Nikki turns up at his car entirely devoted to him. But because this love is artificial, it instantly begins to curdle into horror. Nikki's affection quickly morphs into a terrifying, unhinged fixation. What makes Bear's obsession so deeply villainous is his reaction to the horror. As Nikki's behavior escalates from eccentric to outright dangerous, Bear notices the red flags. He sees her slipping away. He even witnesses moments where her true consciousness briefly breaks through the spell, weeping and pleading for it to stop. But Bear ignores it. Why? Because his fragile ego is being fed. He is so obsessed with the idea of being loved unconditionally that he is willing to tolerate the literal destruction of Nikki's soul. He refuses to undo the wish until the consequences spill over, directly leading to the tragic deaths of his closest friends, Ian and Sarah. Bear didn't want a partner. He wanted a captive audience. Now, let's look at the flip side of this coin. Evan Treborn. Like Bear, Evan is obsessed with changing reality. But Evan's obsession isn't born out of a desire for access to someone. It's born out of a severe, compounding childhood trauma. When Evan discovers that reading his childhood journals allows him to physically travel back in time and alter his past, his goals are entirely focused on fixing the broken lives around him. He wants to save Kylie from an abusive childhood, prevent accidental tragedies, and keep his friends out of prison. But Evan runs face to face into chaos theory. Every single time Evan tries to tweak the timeline to create a perfect reality where he and Kylie are happy, the universe exacts a brutal cosmic tax. In one timeline, his attempt to save Kylie results in him losing his limbs. In another, his mother develops a terminal illness. In yet another, Kylie's life is entirely ruined in a completely different way. Evan becomes desperately obsessed with playing God. He keeps going back, convinced that if he just tweaks one more variable, he can solve the equation. But unlike Bear, who actively looks away from the suffering he causes, Evan is forced to look directly into the eyes of the people he ruined. He realizes that his very presence in their lives, his refusal to let go of the past, is the anchor dragging them all down. This brings us to the core thematic difference between these two stories, the distinction between true love and obsessive control. When Evan finally hits rock bottom, he realizes the ultimate truth of the butterfly effect. You cannot force a perfect reality. If you truly love someone, their well-being matters more than your desire to possess them. In the theatrical ending of the film, Evan makes the ultimate heartbreaking sacrifice. He travels back to the very first day he met Kylie as a child, walks up to her, and intentionally scares her away. He ensures they will never become friends, never fall in love, and never see each other again. He voluntarily breaks his own heart to ensure that she, his mother, and his friends get to live peaceful, healthy lives. He completely removes himself from the equation. Now look at Bear. Bear only tries to reverse his wish when his own life is actively in danger, when the horror knocks on his own front door. He calls the customer service line of the One Wish Willow, not out of guilt for what he did to Nikki, but out of fear for his own survival. And even when Bear attempts a final, desperate escape by taking a handful of pills to end the nightmare, his own wish brought his end, with Nikki making, presumably, the same wish as him, making him lose his autonomy and becoming a husk of his former self. Much like what he inflicted upon Nikki, with him dying finally experiencing what he had put her through for the entire duration of the movie. Evan used his power to take himself out of the picture for the good of others. Bear used his power to force someone else into a picture they never asked to be a part of. Ultimately, both the butterfly effect and obsession serve as dark, modern fables about the dangers of refusing to accept reality. They show us that the desire to completely control our lives and the lives of those around us always comes with a devastating price tag. Evan Treborn learned that lesson across multiple lifetimes and chose sacrifice. Bear tried to cheat the system for a shortcut to happiness and paid for it with his life. It turns out the scariest monsters aren't the ones hiding in the dark, they're the ones born from our own inability to just let go.